I didn't cry when I found out he was cheating. I cried when he said, "It doesn't matter if I'm cheating. You can't survive on your own. Besides, we got a prenup." That line, it gutted me more than any text, perfume scent, or lipstick stain ever could. Before I tell you how I unraveled a man who thought I was helpless, let me set the stage. I'm not some super sleuth or revenge-obsessed woman. I'm just Vivian. I was a stay-at-home mom, 2 kids, suburban house, Pilates classes twice a week when I could fit them in, and a husband who paid the bills but stopped paying attention. We were married for 8 years when things started to feel off. But the truth is, the cracks started earlier. I just wasn't ready to see them. When I met Justin, he was magnetic, charismatic, sharp dresser, knew how to make people feel seen, even in a crowded room. Back then, I was building a promising career in marketing. We bonded over long conversations, takeout Thai food, and mutual dreams of raising a family somewhere quiet. He said he wanted a woman who could do it all, but didn't have to. I thought it meant he respected me. Later, I realized he just wanted control. After we got married, I got pregnant with Rebecca pretty fast. Then Jonathan came a few years later. Justin suggested I step away from my job just for a few years to focus on the kids. "You'll get back into it," he'd say, "once they're in school." That never happened. I'd be lying if I said I regretted staying home with my kids. I loved it. But I lost myself in it too. Justin's business exploded during that time, a boutique software firm that hit at just the right moment. The money started rolling in, and so did his ego. At first, the little digs felt like jokes. "You wouldn't last 2 months in the real world now, Viv. Must be nice not having to answer to a boss. I make the money, you make the sandwiches." I laughed. I always laughed. What else do you do when someone makes you feel small but still kisses your forehead at night? I think the first real sign something was wrong happened when I found his second phone. It wasn't even hidden well, just sitting in the glove compartment of his car, battery dead. At first, I thought it was work-related. Then I charged it. What I found was vague, but enough to set my stomach into knots. Flirty messages, emojis. Some woman saved under the name Jordan Vendor with late-night texts that had nothing to do with business. When I brought it up, he didn't even blink. "Viv, it's not what it looks like. She's a contact I meet with at trade shows. You're being paranoid." He flipped it on me so fast it left me dizzy. "Why were you snooping through my car anyway? You know how stressed I am. You're really gonna add drama right now?" I backed off. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to be wrong. I told myself I was paranoid, that stress was making me see shadows where there weren't any. I even apologized. From that point on, something shifted in me. I didn't trust him, but I didn't trust myself either. He'd made me second-guess every instinct I had. Justin started working later, traveling more, coming home smelling like cologne I didn't recognize. I once found a strand of long blonde hair on his coat, way too light to be mine. He shrugged it off. "Probably someone on the flight. You know how it is in first class. The coats are all thrown together." First class. Right. I forgot I wasn't allowed to ask about those things anymore. I started paying attention in new ways. I watched his expressions when I asked innocent questions. I noticed how his face hardened any time money came up, especially when I suggested we revisit our financial planning. I found an old prenup we signed when we got married, back when I still had a career and believed in love like it was a movie. It wasn't generous. Not even close. Then, one night, while I was putting the kids to bed, I heard him on the phone in his office. His voice was low, irritated. He didn't know I was standing outside the door until I coughed. He jumped. "What are you doing?" "Looking for Rebecca's science kit." I lied. He didn't ask again. But that night, when I tried to bring up our distance, how I was feeling lonely, unsure of where we were headed, he cut me off. "Vivian, you're too emotional lately. You're overthinking. Maybe you need a hobby or something. This stay-at-home thing, it's messing with your head." That's when I said it. "Are you cheating on me?" He stared at me for a long time, then shrugged. "It doesn't matter if I'm cheating. What are you going to do? You can't survive without me. Besides, we've got a prenup." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just nodded. In my head, something cold clicked into place. I knew what I had to do. Not just for me, but for my kids. For the woman I used to be. the one who once gave conference talks and closed big contracts and laughed with real joy. She was still in there, buried under baby wipes and school lunches and half-finished conversations. And from that night on, I became someone new. I wasn't leaving yet. No, I knew enough to understand the way divorce worked. We'd been married 8 years. But if I could make it to 10 and build a solid case, I'd be entitled to permanent alimony in our state. And Justin? He wouldn't hand over a dime unless the law made him. I started gathering evidence. Quietly, screenshots, phone records, conversations I recorded when he slipped and got cocky. I met with Whitney, an old college friend who became a shark of a divorce attorney. She broke down my options and helped me figure out how to play the long game. One day, I confided in her about my plan to get more than just screenshots. "He doesn't think I can survive without him," I said. She smiled. "Then let's show him what survival really looks like." Enter Amber. Amber was Whitney's idea. She had a cousin, Amber Lane, who just moved to the city. Stunning, sharp, broke. She was in between acting gigs and was open to non-traditional side work. We met at a cafe. I told her the truth. I didn't want her to do anything dangerous or illegal. I just needed her to get close to Justin and, if possible, become the smoking gun. "I need you to be the woman he thinks I can't be," I told her. She grinned. So, the fantasy. She applied to be Justin's executive assistant under a fake last name and a polished resume we crafted together. He hired her within 3 days. Of course he did. It didn't take long for things to get physical. Amber told me everything. Dates, gifts, texts. She sent me screenshots, recordings, photos. I didn't enjoy any of it. I wasn't some vengeful sadist. It hurt like hell. But I reminded myself, this pain had a purpose. Justin's behavior got bolder. He started staying out overnight, making excuses about out-of-town clients. Meanwhile, I was still playing the role of doting wife. School drop-offs, PTA meetings, smiling in Christmas cards. But behind the scenes, I had folders, passwords, witnesses. I was 5 months away from our 10-year anniversary, and I was going to make it. If you'd told me 2 years ago that I'd be helping a 20-something model seduce my husband, I would have thought you were insane. But when someone tells you that you're nothing without them, and means it, you either fall apart or start building something better in silence. I chose the second option. By the time Justin and I hit our 9th wedding anniversary, we were barely speaking unless it was about the kids. To everyone else, we looked like the picture-perfect family. He still brought me flowers on my birthday. I still kissed him goodbye at the door. We posed for family photos in matching outfits because that's what people expected. But every smile was practiced, every touch choreographed. Rebecca and Jonathan were the only thing keeping me grounded. I focused on their routines, their laughs, their little milestones. I didn't want our mess to stain their innocence. So I played the game, quietly, carefully. And every night, after the bedtime stories and dinner dishes, I locked myself in the guest room, my fake yoga space, and planned. Reviewed files, backed up texts, updated my binder labeled simply Plan A. Amber didn't just play her role, owned it. Within a month of being hired, she was riding in Justin's private SUV, taking weekend work retreats with him, and getting showered with gifts he never even considered buying me. He bought her a Cartier bracelet, told her she was different, said I used to be smart before I became a mom, and lost ambition. Amber recorded everything, every disgusting, arrogant thing he said. She never baited him, just listened, smiled, let him talk. She once messaged me, "I can't believe he talks about you like that. You're raising his kids." I told her, "He's been talking to me like that for years. You just finally helped me prove it." To her credit, Amber never overstepped. She never gloated. She was doing a job, and honestly, it had to be awkward as hell pretending to care about a man so openly condescending. One night, she called me, voice shaking. He just said, "I don't even love her. She was convenient. She trapped me with kids." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I wrote it down, saved the voice memo, and added it to the folder. Whitney, my lawyer and secret weapon, was everything I wasn't allowed to be. Bold, relentless, and unshakably confident. She reviewed every scrap of evidence I collected like she was preparing for trial. Which, in a way, she was. "Prenup's tight," she admitted during one of our late-night meetings. "But California's got your back once you hit 10 years. That's lifetime support territory. She laid it out cleanly. I stay married until the 10-year mark. We file immediately after. With proof of infidelity, manipulation, and verbal emotional abuse, we can challenge key terms of the prenup. The court will likely rule in my favor on custody and spousal support, especially with how involved I've been as a parent. But you've got to be careful, Viv, she warned. He can't know what you're planning. Not even a hint. I nodded. I'd been careful. Paranoid, even. My digital backups were stored on an encrypted drive hidden inside a hollowed-out book. I never accessed anything from our shared computer. I even used a burner phone to talk to Amber and Whitney, one I kept hidden inside an old cereal box at the top of the pantry, where only I did the grocery restocking. We still had dinner as a family most nights. I played my role with Oscar-worthy precision. I'd nod politely when he talked about work, even when I knew he was lying. I'd ask about his clients, knowing full well Amber was likely sitting in his office that very moment in a dress I helped her pick. He noticed once that I wasn't arguing anymore. "You're quieter lately," he said over steak one night. "More agreeable." I smiled. "Just tired. You know, mom stuff." He smirked. "Told you this lifestyle would wear you down." And just like that, I swallowed every ounce of anger. Because I was almost there. This part, it was a mistake. I hadn't meant to be there. I was supposed to be picking up Rebecca from a friend's birthday party early, but plans changed last minute, so I found myself with a weird window of free time. I drove downtown, near Justin's office, mostly out of muscle memory. I used to bring him lunch sometimes before things went cold between us. As I sat in the car, sipping coffee, I saw them, Justin and Amber, walking out of a hotel entrance. His hand was on her lower back. She was laughing at something he said, and in that moment I felt nothing. No jealousy, no rage, just a strange kind of peace. It was the confirmation I didn't know I needed. I wasn't just imagining things. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I was right. They drove off in his car. I sat there a while longer, then drove home to prep dinner like nothing happened. I didn't tell Amber I saw them. I didn't need to. The image was seared into my memory, but it didn't hurt the way I thought it would. It was just another receipt for the folder. He started to get uneasy. I think he could feel I wasn't hanging on his words anymore. I didn't jump when he raised his voice. I didn't argue when he came home late. I was polite, distant, and that terrified him. One night, out of nowhere, he said, "You still love me, right?" I looked him dead in the eyes. "Why do you ask?" He shrugged. "Just feels like you're different." I smiled, took a sip of wine, and said, "People change, Justin. You taught me that." He looked rattled, but didn't press. That was the moment I knew he suspected something, but couldn't name it. And I wasn't about to help him. I waited until the exact anniversary. Whitney and I had the papers drawn up and ready. Amber had submitted a signed statement along with full documentation. Photos, recordings, dates, texts. I served him divorce papers at his office. He had just finished a lunch meeting, looking smug and relaxed. "Viv?" he asked when he saw me standing in the reception area. "What are you doing here?" I handed him the envelope. "Happy anniversary." He opened it, scanned a few pages, then looked up at me. "You've got to be kidding." I didn't say a word. I turned and walked away. Later that night, he stormed into the house. "You've been planning this? How long, Viv? You set me up?" "No," I said calmly, folding laundry. "I protected myself. You set yourself up." He laughed, bitter, disbelieving. "The prenup is under review," I interrupted. "Infidelity changes things. So does manipulation. So does documented psychological abuse. My lawyer's a pit bull, Justin, and I've got everything I need." He stood there, stunned. "You waited 2 years just to trap me." I shrugged. "I waited 2 years to free myself. It's a strange thing, watching the person who made you feel invisible finally see you. Not because they want to, but because they have to." When I served Justin those divorce papers on our 10-year anniversary, he didn't crumble. He didn't even get angry right away. He laughed. This dry, disbelieving laugh, like I was some sitcom plot twist that came out of nowhere. But I wasn't a twist. I was the slow burn he didn't see coming. The days that followed were awkward, to say the least. We still lived under the same roof while the process unfolded. California requires a 6-month cooling-off period before a divorce is finalized. Whitney said it could work to our advantage in custody arrangements, so I gritted my teeth and coexisted with the man I was actively dismantling. Justin oscillated between cocky and confused. One moment he'd be smirking at me over coffee like I was bluffing. The next, he was quietly reviewing the documents in his office, maybe flipping through them like maybe, just maybe, he'd missed something. "You don't have a case," he said one night while microwaving leftovers. "The prenup's ironclad." I didn't respond. I didn't have to. Whitney moved fast. Her legal strategy was airtight. We weren't trying to void the prenup entirely, just to challenge key sections based on fault. California is technically a no-fault divorce state, but courts still consider misconduct when dividing assets, especially when it affects children or long-term spousal support. The cheating? We had receipts. The emotional manipulation? Also documented, thanks to audio clips, text threads, and even a few journal entries I'd been encouraged to keep after meeting with a therapist. Amber's statement sealed it all. She provided a sworn declaration detailing not just their affair, but things he'd said about me, our marriage, and even our kids. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the carelessness, the disregard, the way he'd weaponized his power and money. The judge wouldn't throw out the prenup. But Whitney argued, successfully, that its spousal support limitations were unconscionable based on what had happened during our marriage and his behavior over the past 2 years. Justin wanted 50-50 custody. He claimed he was a devoted father and that I was emotionally unstable. His lawyer leaned into the stay-at-home mom narrative like it was a weakness. "She's been out of the workforce for nearly a decade. Financial dependence is not grounds for full custody," his attorney said. What they didn't expect was my portfolio. Yeah, I had a portfolio. Whitney helped me assemble a detailed record of every school function I attended, every medical appointment I handled, every birthday party I organized, and every parent-teacher conference I led solo while Justin was at work or traveling. We presented emails from teachers addressed solely to me, schedules I created, the daily logs I kept for Rebecca and Jonathan when they were toddlers. Not to mention, Justin had never even attended a dentist appointment. We also had a few unfortunate texts from him to Amber that read, "I'd go crazy if I had to do what she does. Kids 24/7? Shoot me." The judge leaned toward joint legal custody, but gave me primary physical custody. Translation, the kids live with me. He gets scheduled visitations. Justin's smugness about our prenup didn't age well. We had signed it when we were both working, back when I was still making decent money. But Whitney made the case that the financial landscape had changed drastically and that I'd sacrificed career advancement to support our family and his company's growth. And because we'd crossed the 10-year threshold, the court now had discretion on long-term alimony. I didn't want to bleed him dry. I wasn't trying to punish him. I just wanted stability, for me and for the kids. We were awarded the house. It made more sense than uprooting the children. Monthly alimony until remarriage or significant financial change. Full child support based on his current income bracket. 15% share in his company. Whitney found proof that I had contributed marketing strategies in its early phase, via emails and planning documents. Justin was stunned. "You're taking my company?" He snapped across the mediation table. "No," I said, calm as ever. "I'm taking what I helped build." Justin had carefully curated a public image. Clean-cut tech founder, doting father, self-made man. He didn't expect someone like me to outmaneuver him. But word travels. Quietly. Especially in local business circles. Amber never went public. She disappeared after her part was done, back to acting gigs and modeling shoots. But I'm pretty sure she kept her own copies of everything, just in case. Meanwhile, Justin's employees started whispering about how quickly Amber had been hired, about their work trips, about how I'd always been the one to host company events at our house, bake cookies for product launches, and keep the social side of his business thriving. He wasn't canceled, but he lost shine. A few investors pulled out. A board member stepped down. Karma didn't burn his world down. It just dimmed the spotlight he thought he owned. And me? I thrived. About a month after the final ruling, Justin came by to pick up the kids for the weekend. He looked tired, thinner, still well-dressed, but the usual arrogance was gone. As I helped Rebecca zip up her suitcase, he stood in the hallway and asked quietly, "Why did you wait?" I looked at him. Not with hate, not with pity, just with clarity. "Because I knew you'd never give me what I deserved. so I had to wait until the law would. He exhaled like someone who'd just been told a harsh truth they already knew deep down, and then he left. There was no champagne toast, no dramatic goodbye. The day our divorce was finalized, I made grilled cheese for the kids and watched a movie with them on the couch. I didn't tell them what happened until weeks later, gently, carefully, in a way that made sure they knew they weren't the cause. Rebecca asked, "Are we going to be okay?" And I told her the truth. We already are. People always ask, "How did you move on?" Like healing is a decision you make one morning over coffee. It's not. It's slow, it's quiet, it's messy. And sometimes it feels like nothing is changing at all until one day you notice your smile isn't forced anymore. That's how it was for me. After the dust settled, papers signed, lawyers paid, visitation schedules in place, I sat in the house alone one night, kids asleep upstairs, and I realized I couldn't hear anything. No arguing, no fake apologies, no long silences stretched tight like rubber bands. Just peace. It was disorienting. For the longest time, I didn't know who I was without the tension. I had spent years walking on eggshells, doubting myself, shrinking just to keep the peace. Now, the peace was mine, but it didn't feel familiar yet. It felt earned, but not comfortable. So I did what I hadn't done in years. I exhaled, and then I started figuring out who Vivian was without the prefix Justin's wife attached. Travel helped me breathe again. I had a bit of savings, plus the alimony and support. I wasn't rich, but I could finally breathe financially. And one day, while folding laundry, I thought, why the hell not? So I took the kids to Italy. It wasn't glamorous. We stayed in a modest Airbnb outside Florence and ate more pizza than I care to admit, but it was real. We walked cobblestone streets, painted by the river, and took blurry pictures in front of statues they didn't care about but pretended to for my sake. Rebecca said, "Mom, you're different here." And I asked, "Different how?" "You laugh more," she said. Like, for real. That one stayed with me. After Italy, we went to Oregon the next summer, rented a cabin, hiked in damp pine forests, built fires, and roasted marshmallows with sticky hands. I watched Jonathan learn how to skip stones. I watched Rebecca teach herself how to read a map. And I remembered that I could be strong and soft at the same time. I was no longer a shell. I was becoming me. A few months after everything was finalized, I got a message from Amber. "Hey, just wanted to check in. I heard what happened. Glad you're free. Hope you're doing okay." I didn't owe her anything, but I responded, "Thank you. I hope you're okay too. You did more for me than you know." She replied, "You deserved better. I hope you never forget that. We haven't spoken since." She played her role in my life, a strange, powerful, necessary one, and then stepped back. She had her own life to live, and I had mine to rebuild. Whitney became more than a lawyer. It's funny how friendship can sneak up on you. Whitney was all business when we first reconnected, but somewhere between court dates and case reviews, she became my sounding board, my drinking wine on the patio buddy, the person who didn't flinch when I admitted I was scared, even after winning. "You don't need to rush into anything," she told me one night. I had asked if maybe it was time to think about dating again. "I'm not even sure I remember how," I said. She smiled. "That's because you're not supposed to yet." And she was right. There were still nights I cried. When the kids were gone with Justin and the house felt too quiet. When I found old pictures in boxes. When something reminded me of who I used to be and made me wonder if I'd ever fully be her again. But there were good days, too. Like the day I repainted the living room on a whim without asking anyone for permission. Or when I started freelancing again, writing content for small businesses and realizing I still had talent. Or when I bought a cheap secondhand guitar and taught myself 3 chords just because I wanted to. Little things that stacked up and built a version of me that wasn't defined by someone else's shadow. It wasn't dramatic. No flowers, no long emails. Just a casual text one night when the kids were with him. "You seem like you're doing better. Maybe we should talk." Not about getting back together, just, I don't know, reconnect. I stared at the message for a long time. Maybe before I would have read into it, held on to it, wondered if he had changed. But I didn't need closure anymore. I didn't even need revenge. I just needed space, and I had it. So I didn't reply. I blocked the number, not out of spite, but because I didn't need to perform my piece for anyone, especially not the man who once looked me in the eye and said, "You can't survive without me." The kids are okay. This was the part I worried most about. The broken home fear, the trauma scars. But you know what? Kids are resilient when you give them safety. Rebecca asks questions sometimes. She's old enough to remember the tension. She remembers the night I served the papers. She once said, "You were brave, Mom." I said, "No, I was scared. I just didn't let it stop me." Jonathan doesn't talk about it much, but he cuddles more now, laughs louder. He used to flinch when voices got too loud. He doesn't anymore. We're okay. Not perfect. Not grounded, but grounded. They know their lime's stable. They know they don't have to choose sides. And that's enough. I'm not dating yet, on purpose. People are nosy. You should get back out there. Don't you want to find someone? Your ex is probably with someone new already. Yes, he is. I've seen her. No, I don't care, because healing doesn't come with a timer. I don't want to carry old wounds into someone new's life. I want to arrive whole, or at least honest. It's not that I'm closed off. I just know that being alone is better than being lost in someone else again. Right now, I like my life. I like the way I pour my own coffee and sit by the window in the morning. I like that I play music too loud sometimes and dance in the kitchen. I like that when I laugh, it doesn't feel like something I'm borrowing. I don't need a relationship to complete me. I need time to continue becoming someone I love being around. If you're reading this and you're in a relationship where someone makes you feel small, like you couldn't make it without them, let me tell you something. They're wrong. You can survive. But surviving isn't the goal. Thriving is. Living without the weight of someone else's opinion defining your worth is a kind of freedom that feels like learning how to breathe again. Will it be hard? Yes. Will it be lonely sometimes? Absolutely. But it will be real. And it will be yours. I didn't just leave a man. I left a version of myself that settled for less. And I'm never going back. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. If you want to share your stories, please comment below. Additionally, what is your opinion on the poster's decision?